Ready?
Not so easy.
Hello, and welcome to Prism Perspectives. I'm Larry Waddell.
And I'm Alyshia-Madlem.
Hello, and welcome to Prism Perspectives. I'm Larry Waddell.
And I'm Alyshia-Madlem.
And we're former heads of operations covering challenges for growing businesses who aren't quite ready for COO, but ready for better systems for growth.
That's right. And today, Larry, we're going to be talking about sabotage. And what do I mean by that? I know we shouldn't laugh about sabotage, but
we shouldn't laugh about that. And
good.
also, I don't think we have rights to be saying that. But anyway,
it's all good. We're talking about business sabotage, at least, right? So today we're going to chat about how successful founders actually sabotage their own growth. And that may sound silly, but they usually don't know they're doing it. So I know you and we've sat in lots of organizations. We've seen this play out. What does this look like in practice for you in the day-to-day working with founders?
Yeah, absolutely. And it manifests in different ways. And what I've seen includes founders who fundamentally aren't really growing, so that's sort of hint number one. Bouncing around the same revenue levels for several years. And, it's not uncommon to advance and fall back and advance and fall back. It's sort of a sawtooth pattern. Growth isn't necessarily monotonically increasing. But if you've gone a number of years and you're pretty much where you were, 2, 3, 4 years ago, maybe even backsliding, that's sort of one hint to the need to unpack and figure out why. And what I've seen oftentimes is fundamentally, a founder, CEO, or owner is in the middle of almost every major decision. They're in the middle of everything. So when you're thinking about, hiring decisions or sales or like owning a key account or, processes or R&D, they're everywhere, touching everything. And, it's always or often not sustainable.
Yeah.
It can be stuck.
It's the circle, right? It's like we just get to the crest and then back down we go and up to the crest and back down we go. And it feels like you can never break the circle and make a different shape. It's just circle and the circle stays, this big, right?
That's right. And folks, and maybe you get to a certain point and somebody leaves, like, oh, why did Susie leave? But then you get to another point and they're like, oh, we just lost this major account. And like to your point about you get up and they're like Sisyphus or something, like you get up to the top and it rolls back down. And then a year goes by, right?
Yes.
And that's usually what I've seen. And, when you think about sabotage, that's a heavy word. But if you look carefully, sometimes founders are doing things that are not in the best interest and sometimes not in the best interest of folks that are reporting.
Yeah. I've also seen it play out where they sort of hoard knowledge. And it's not even from a place of malfeasance. It's just like faster for them to do it, or it is they just know how to do it. And sometimes that's low-level tasks that are just not worthy of their time, but they often even think they're sort of being heroic, right? Like, I'm taking this off the team's plate, but in reality, you're stunting the team or you're preventing them from moving forward themselves, whether that's with a task or themselves, by you are now a cog. You have now created something in the machine that they can't go around because also you're in charge. So they can't just go around you. And so I've also seen it play out like that, where you're still doing invoicing, right? Or you're still the person that's doing MQL criteria scoring. You're still the person that's talking to even younger professional hires, and you're still their first call. And a lot of times those are those time sucks that maybe you shouldn't be doing, but you either have never told anyone else how to do it, you don't trust your team to do it, or you think you're saving them by doing something else. But indeed, you're creating those bottlenecks you can't get around, right?
Well, that's interesting about the trust piece, right? Is that sort of, I don't say fundamentally at the core of it, is like, do you trust anyone else to do the things that you could do? I've seen situations where a CEO will just bang something out because they are the best at doing it. Like what's that like in your experience where you have a CEO who is like, I can get this done in 3 minutes. Like maybe to your point, like saving the team. Oh, that's going to take Susie an hour. I can get it done in 15 minutes. I'll
Yeah.
just get it done so that way she stays on task.
Yeah. I think there's also recognition that a lot of people who started professional services business were amazing practitioners, right? They
Oh,
started as really, really good doers, and in fact, maybe had ideas or talents that got tamped down by where they were at. And they're like, I'm going to go start my own thing. I'm going to do it differently. Right. And I'm going to be in charge. So we saw often forget they start as these excellent executors. And so they take that with them. And that's an easier muscle to exercise than it is to run a
yes.
business. Right. So running a business and doing really good at the things that you provide as the business, two separate things. And it's really easy to fall back and say, well, if I want to feel accomplished, right? Or if I want to feel like I got something done, or I
Right.
just want to, my ego needs a little boost, I'm going to go over here and meddle in the services. I'm going to go and meddle in delivery. They don't see it as meddling, but that's what they're doing. I'm going to go meddle in delivery because this has a start date and an end date and an obvious KPI instead of forecasting or dealing with the things that come with the business or dealing with the people of the business or making sure sales is going correctly. And I think you have that. And then I know you and I have seen and chatted a lot about we
Yeah.
often have CEO dash, right? I'm
Yeah.
CEO dash a really good salesperson, CEO
Yeah.
dash a really good finance person, CEO dash a really good delivery person. So they'll lean into those things, but all those other
Yeah.
things that are operations, they also have to take care of when you're at a certain size. And so those things get neglected or those things are sort of left to the last minute because they're leaning into what they know because it's comfortable and rewarding.
Yes.
And getting people to kind of understand that that's maybe how you start, but that's not how you're actually going to get to where you want to go. What you sat down on paper in that business plan, what is in your heart and mind of where you're trying to take it is if you only remain owner delivery, well, we're back to the circle again, right? We never break free.
Yeah, and that is really interesting because that gets to personal growth. We think
Mm,
about professional development, and you do a lot of this work
yeah.
with executives or all levels
Yeah.
at a client team. But we also have to think about the CEO too. And they're also on their own professional journey. And to your point, if they got into the business because they enjoyed delivery or some other aspect, or even the sales, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-mm.
That's going to be home for them. That's going to be validating. They're going to get a lot of joy out of
Yeah.
it. But there could be other muscles they have to exercise to be successful in their new role, which is CEO,
Yeah.
and leading and guiding a business beyond, or achieving whatever goals that they might have for themselves. So, how often have you been in a situation where a CEO has come to you and said, I'm on my own professional journey. I'm going to lean into the pain of the unknown on this thing. Like, hey, where I was before, I wasn't doing business strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe I was an IC or I was a manager or whatever, or maybe, what the business needs is financial acumen or go to market or whatever. I want to lean into that. I want to learn about that because I'm on my own professional journey. Or is it really, I just want to hit a certain dollar goal? See, I've heard that.
Mm.
It's interesting you should say that. I hadn't thought about this before. I've heard somebody say, like, I have a certain number. I want a certain amount of money I want to take out of the business, or I want a certain
Mhm.
value. But that's not the same thing as I'm on my own professional journey and I want to achieve these things from a skill perspective because I want to be a better CEO.
Yeah, I think they start where you started, right? And it'll have a financial goal. And then honestly, it's less self-actualization most of the time. It's more like something breaks, whether it's
Mm,
them or something in the business. And then they're
right
like,
on.
"Oh, I can no longer do all of these things. Like, how do I get these things off my plate?" And you sort of feel this scramble. And really what it is they've lost that layer that's underneath the
Right.
why. The why do you want to hit that sales number? What does that unlock for you? What does that achieve? Is it freedom for you? Is it the ability to dive into what you want? Is it innovation? And they sort of lose the why of why they did this, and they get caught up in the how we're doing things all of the time.
Yes.
And it typically takes, again, something to break where they'll be like, oh, an invoice didn't go out on time, or oh, I lost a key person that was doing something, or I burned out. I talked to someone not that long ago, head of a company, one day was like, I need to get out of this, and got on a plane and flew to Miami for a week and
Oh
just
my.
had to get away from it because there was so much that they were taking on and none of it was going out. It was only coming in.
Yes.
It was only addition, no subtraction. And so to your question, I think it really comes down to, it starts with like some harder KPIs, some harder metrics. But if
Mhm.
you sort of ask the five whys, that we're all very
Yes.
familiar with, start thinking like, why do you want to take that home? Why do you want to do
Yes.
that? It becomes something that isn't tied to dollars as deeply as it's tied to freedom, innovation, expression, getting my ideas out in the world, helping mentor others. But I don't typically see it come to the forefront proactively. It usually gets
Right.
triggered by something else. And I know, you've seen this as well, but it's sort of like, what happens if you don't get yourself out of these seats, right? What happens if you don't move towards doing the work of not being a bottleneck and not being in the way, not being in charge of everything? I know you've seen this. Generally, the simple question you can ask a founder is like, what if you were gone for 2 weeks? What if you weren't
Right.
here? What happens? And a lot of times they will be forced to do something like that. And by force, we mean nicely, like go somewhere with your family, or take a
Yeah.
vacation, then come back and, oh, look, nothing broke. Well, then
Yes.
why am I
Well, but
involved in all these things, right? So I don't know what you've seen, but it's sort of like, what happens if you don't start to fix things? What happens if you
well,
just let
but
it roll over you?
that's the thing, right? I mean, I could see wanting to be needed as a thing. I could also
Oh, yes.
see something breaking, and then like those higher ordered uh motivations kind of go by the wayside. It's like, okay, now I got to jump in, and I've got
Mm-hmm.
to like strap in. I got to do the chin strap and then jump into the middle of this thing
Yep.
and save this client, or go talk Billy off the ledge because we
Mm-hmm.
need him. We can't lose him. And I sometimes wonder if, even despite what we may be told about growth, at the end of the day, maybe the CEO is kind of okay with it. I
Mm,
sometimes wonder about that.
yeah.
I think that yes, we might have aspirations to hit a certain revenue level or whatever, but not doing too bad. Business is going okay. Clients come, clients go. I've got some decent longevity on the squad. People
Yeah.
aren't just heading for the exits. Um, because growth is hard and growth is painful. And I just sort of wonder, not everything has to be about the psyche of the CEO.
Yeah.
It's like, but I've seen whether or not there are opportunities for the people underneath that individual sometimes depend on whether or not the company's growing or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of gets us back to why does the company grow? Why does the CEO want to grow it? And then are they prepared to do the things necessary to enable that growth? So
Yeah.
wearing a lot of hats is one. Another
Yeah.
one, and I know it's one that you've talked about in the past, has been just sitting on the knowledge, like
Mm.
sitting on top of like the institutional knowledge of the business, and maybe not purposefully,
Mm-mm.
holding it tight, holding
Right.
it close to the vest. Maybe it's literally you've got a superlative individual, and maybe she can't easily transfer what she knows how to do to the folks on her team. You know,
Yeah.
what have you seen in those situations where in a small business you might have knowledge or the secret sauce concentrated
Mm.
in sometimes a single individual? It could be just the founder.
Yeah.
How have you seen that play out, and how does that impact the ability to let go of things?
Yeah. So if you do not fix it, let's start there. If you do not fix it, you and I've
Right.
had these chats. Burnout is very quickly around the
Oh,
corner.
yeah.
Right. And so we've seen CEOs that are like, I just want to get out of here. Right. Or
Yeah.
I'm willing to just cut and run this thing because I can't keep being this person, even though they have caused it, and they have held on
Yes.
to the knowledge and not released it to others. That's one of the main things that can happen is the idea you started with, this thing you were so excited with, becomes a burden. And you're like, I don't want to do that
Yes.
anymore, right? I'd rather go back to just being a delivery person, taking my orders and go home at the end of the
Yes.
day and not be thinking about all these things. And I think a big cause of that is what you're chatting about is I haven't given the knowledge to anyone else. So a couple of
Hmm.
things. One is it takes a high level of trust, right? To turn
Yes.
over pieces of the
We're
business
back to
and
trusting it.
especially the
Yes.
operational pieces of the business, right? So we're talking about that. We're talking sales, we're talking finance, we're talking people, we're talking marketing, right? We're talking some of those big tent poles that it can take a lot of trust to have someone else speak for the business besides you.
Hmm.
Someone else make sure you get paid besides you. Someone else make sure that the right people are in the right seats besides you. So the first thing that you have to do is sort of what would it take for you to trust someone else to do this? Right.
Yes.
So if we take an actionable tip from this talk and you're a CEO listening, you're like, well, how do I do that? It's like, okay, well, sit
Yeah.
down and truly think about what can only you do? What can only you do, owner, CEO? You only have the knowledge. No one else can do this. Or to your point, it's your personal secret sauce. Only I can do this. What could I
Mhm.
train someone else to do, painful though it might be? And what would happen if I just gave this to someone else and like I know the risk is low, I'm just going to let it go. And I know there's a flex in how this might get done, but it's going to get done. It's not going to hurt us. But
Mhm.
I sort of have to start to break down like who do I have on the bench? Who's there? What level of trust does it take to actually do that? And then you actually have to hold yourself accountable to giving things away.
Yes.
And if you
Yes.
do not do that, it doesn't matter how many people you train or how many great people you have. Remember, none of the people under you, you're still writing the checks, right? Their futures depend on you. They're not going to walk up to you most of the time and be like, I would love for you to teach me how to do this. And if you don't give it to me, bad things will happen. They're never going to do that. They wait. They wait to be poured into, unless outside of some very specific situations. So you sort of have to identify what your purpose is, what you should be doing, what can you give away, and who those people are. And then you start to build plans to get that off of your plate. It's going to take time. Most people can't just jump in and take XYZ thing off your plate. But if you can kind of milestone build towards that, you're going to wake up in a year and realize, okay, now I'm focused. And the last thing I'll say on it is what does that open up for you, right? Right now, if you're sucked into these things in your bottleneck, it's like you're not concentrating on sales, to your point, growth. You're not concentrating on innovation, to your point, growth. Growth can be defined a lot of different ways, but almost all of those pieces are degraded by you not getting out of the way. You have to demote yourself. CEO. I'm sorry to tell
Yes.
you, but in certain areas, you get to be the CEO, but you can't be head of sales and head of finance and head of ops and head of
Yes.
delivery. You got to demote yourself at some point, and these are some of the ways that you can start to get yourself out of that hole. I don't know what you've seen, but those are some of the ways that it's like you just there's sort of a self actualization that happens, and then you start down this path.
Yes, absolutely. And I like that. What is that sort of actionable thing
Yeah.
that folks who might be watching this can go do? Because I don't think you need to overthink it, to your point. I think
Yeah.
it's like sitting down and thinking about what's on your plate, what do you have in terms of tasks, or what's on your parking lot, which is important,
Mm.
but it's not sort of critical.
Yeah.
And so maybe your focus is some acute thing in the business that happens, that's fine, but there's something not getting done that could be a really nice challenge for somebody on your team.
Yes.
It may not be done the way you would do it. It might not happen as quickly as you would do it, but it still could be something somebody can reach for and grab. So I would say deputize someone.
Yes.
That's what I've done. Like maybe let's say you don't have an executive team in place or senior leadership team in place. You don't have that, or at least maybe not formalized, or it's not exactly the way you would want it, but you do have some solid quality people on there. Find something or some things on your list. Go find Billy, go find Susie, and just tag you in. Just
Yeah.
deputize them. And just don't foist it on them.
Yes.
Because I've seen situations where people are like, oh, put me in, coach, I'm ready to play. And they take on something full of heart. They want to show the big boss they
Right.
can do it. And they kind of choke on it. So invest in them. And again, it's like, oh, I'm so busy. Like, yeah, you are. But if you invest in that individual and they can be successful, maybe 80%, 85% of the way you would have done it, you've set them up for future success
Yes.
and you got something done that you didn't have to be in the middle of, maybe, or at least not like muscling it yourself over the finish line or never getting to it at all because the stuff in your parking lot you kind of never get to. So
Yeah.
I'd say look at your list, sit down, look at your list, don't overthink it, find something, one thing, and then who, to your point, Alyshia, who on your squad can you trust? Deputize them, like read them into it, let them go.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that we've also chatted with people like, look at your time tracking, right? See where your time
Yes,
is
if you have,
going if you
yes,
have it. And ask yourself, if I took these hours and I gave that to someone else, what could I put those hours towards? And you sort of
yes,
lose that translation at some point when you get really busy. And you're like, if I didn't spend 2 hours on this client call and I spent 2 hours on sales, how much? And you start the wheel starts turning, right? And so I think that being able to sort of figure out who to deputize and what to deputize, if you do track your
yes,
time, tap into your favorite LLM and be like, be honest
yes,
with me, Claude slash chat GPT slash whomever, be honest with me. If I surgically started to cut these pieces out and give them away to everyone else, what could it open up for me? And I know we tell people a lot, you got to go from heroic contributor dragging the business behind you on your sled to operations. You have to operationalize the business, and you can only
yes.
for so long be carrying everybody on your back if you want to achieve the goals, right? Unlocks. But I know we've seen some powerful revelations to our owners when they actually sit down, take a step back and be like, what have I actually been spending my time on?
Exactly.
And it's
It's
not always what they think
shocking.
it is. Yeah, they get shocked, right?
Oh,
Shocked.
absolutely. They get
Hmm.
absolutely shocked. And if you do keep your time, Alicia's absolutely right. That's a lovely thing. If you don't, please consider starting, even if you only do it for 90 days or
Yes.
30 days. Just you need a little bit of data. You could do old school, just run some pivot tables, normalize your where your time is going, throw it in an LLM. But that's definitely something you can do in the next 30 days. So, find someone to deputize, interrogate your time and where it's going, get one thing that you can delegate to somebody. And it doesn't have to be anything bad. If you, in quiet moments, when you're honest with yourself, you're probably never going to get to it, but it actually is important. Find someone who's reaching and they aspire to more and give them a go.
Yeah.
Give them a shot.
Love it.
Okay.
Love actionable tips. There you go, everybody.
Actionable tips. So that's what we're gonna end the sabotage. This is
Yes.
self sabotage. Sort of one delegated task at a time.
Love it.
Thanks for spending time with us.
Yes.
Again, this is Prism Perspectives. We're gonna have perspectives ongoing. So please come
Yes.
back, check us
Please.
out. If there's something specific you want us to chop up on Prism Perspectives, drop them in the comments. But otherwise, we will see you soon with another thing that we've identified in our work that we want to bring to you and give you our perspective.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.